This morning, MSC Cruises Next Generation Cruise Ship Seaside made its inaugural call. This vessel is a completely new prototype, pushing the boundaries of innovative ship design and building. MSC Seaside was scheduled to visit in December 2017, but Hurricane Irma changed their itinerary plans. I will be leaving in a few minutes to visit them and to also welcome them to our port. On Friday, April 6th, my skiff 6 will be making its inaugural call to our port as well. Port St. Martin and I will be welcoming this new vessel with the traditional plaque exchange. I would like to congratulate Port St. Martin's management and marketing strategists for a job well done by focusing on the German market. Both inaugurations are obvious signs of confidence in St. Martin as a destination and our recovery. During this time of recovery, we need to market St. Martin well. Overall, my message today is one of hope. However, we cannot become complacent and take this industry for granted. We cannot sit back and expect our tourists to come to us. We must go out there and bring them to St. Martin. Those are my two announcements, which are very short. And if you have any questions, you can pose them now because I will be leaving in 2 minutes. So if there are no questions, I will go ahead and meet MSC Seaside.
Mr. De Wever, the plan of approach for the border control, is that completed and is that available for us?
Let me double check on that one and if it's available to you, but I know that we've worked on it and we've met with our stakeholders as well, so everything should be in place. It's also part of our recovery as well. Thank you, Mr. Howard.
I have a question for you, Minister. Can you provide some information regarding the renovation currently taking place at the prison?
There are no renovations currently taking place at the prison.
The work at the prison, how far are you?
We are busy. In principle, the Council of Ministers and I have agreed that we have to build a new prison. So that's a general consensus. In order to do that, we have to select a project manager, and then based on that, we'll start making the preparations for it. Thank you. Have a good day.
Sports fans, on Friday, April 6th, the Department of Sports under the hashtag #SportsMatter brings to you a mixer to help raise funds that will go towards the repair of 4 major sports facilities. Come out to the Government Administration Building from 6 to 8 p.m. and pledge your support to help build back our sports facilities better and stronger. The Mixer, Friday, April 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Government Administration Building. Because #SportsMatter.
Good morning, members of the press, my colleagues. Of course, we always like to take the opportunity to inform you of progress made, important events taking place, and therefore I would like to start off by saying that on Friday, April 6th, we will have 5 mini-movies that will be showcased as part of the UNICEF Child Rights Film Festival at the Bel Air Community Center at 7:30. The Children's Rights Film Festival is the largest children's film festival in the Netherlands and now also in the Caribbean, in which children learn about children's rights in a playful way. The UNICEF Children's Rights Festival teaches children about children's rights in an interactive way. The program also links up with creative subjects and world orientation. By practically engaging with and discussing children's rights with other children in the Caribbean Netherlands gain more knowledge and awareness about the rights of children. Children learn about their rights and to stand up for themselves and others. They also learn to portray a story in a creative way. Together with a film coach, children produce a professional film that addresses the topic of children's rights. The school with the best film will take part in the regional finals held in Curaçao, in which the different schools from the various islands compete to win the first edition of the UNICEF Children's Rights Film Festival. For the past 2 months, children in the ages between 9 and 13 in the afternoon and during community schools have been learning about their rights as children through the UNICEF Children's Rights Film Festival program that we engaged in after Irma. There have been several steps already carried out, including making drawings and having exhibitions in the schools to choose the winning drawing. The winning drawing for the school has been made into a movie with the help of film coach Anderson Percival, who has been working with the schools and children to create a script and do the filming. On Friday, the winning team will take part in the regional competition representing St. Martin in Curaçao on April 14. I invite all, especially families, to come out to a fun night as we celebrate our children and their rights. Last week, I was also able to sign off on several advices that awarded Studying in the Region scholarships to several students. The Studying in the Region program is an opportune way for many students that may have been left out of the traditional study financing route. We have seen an increase in the interest of students to pursue initiative to be able to offer students now, for instance, through the funds that we received from the Dutch subsidy. 5 of the recipients of the financing of Studying in the Region will be attending the Institute of Technology in Trinidad to follow a course on building construction trades, as mentioned earlier during some of the press releases. We're happy to conclude that 5 or 6 recipients have been selected, and this course, of course, is critically important as we need all the skilled workers we can get in this recovery period, and the chance to educate our own is a great accomplishment. I'm also happy that the same institute based in Trinidad will visit us next week and have already reached out to NIPA to explore possibilities to also expand their programs here on island, as I believe that has been a question addressed earlier by the press. In the next few days, I will also be visiting some of the public schools to inspect the works done related to the fencing. The schools that were prioritized were Marie Genevieve de Wever School, Leonard Connor School, and the Martin Luther King Jr. School, as they indeed identified urgently needed help to secure the parameters of their respective schools. Most of the work has been completed in the meantime and is expected to be finalized within the next week or 2 weeks. I will continue to emphasize that safety and security of our students and teaching staff are a priority. And I also, of course, realize that we should expand and further intensify the repairs of the schools, and that is in close consultation with the Secretary General and other departments within the to thank them for the enormous assistance that we received following, of course, Irma last year. In September, the ministry reached out to several international partners and stakeholders with an urgent request for assistance. The assistance received was almost immediately helped a great deal with us being able to indeed reopen the schools in October. A list of all goods that we received, and that list is very extensive, I must say. We are pretty impressed with the support that we received in kind as a grant, has definitely assisted in that reopening phase in the last quarter in 2017. We received classroom furniture, electronic equipment, books, pens, all kind of materials, and it has been made to good use and distributed amongst the schools. We were able to build therefore a close connection with the Secretary General Marianne Hammersma and her advisor Aldrik Inethout, and I would definitely thank them personally for the invaluable help throughout the last 6-7 months. We will also ensure that the letters will have some local impressions made by our students included. They made letters, they made drawings, also expressing their sincere thank you from the Dutch. It is also my desire to maintain and further strengthen that collaboration, which has been a natural one through the annual collaboration agreement that were made. And we will also therefore receive some support, technical assistance for the Culture Department in the next 2 weeks from the Rijksdienst Cultureel Erfgoed from the Netherlands to assist that we can focus now more on the repairs and the preservation of our monuments. Because of course all attention has been on the schools, but we now need to address the repairs and the impact that Irma has had on our monuments as well, and they will be assisting with that. I also had a telephone conference this morning with the Ministry of Public Health, Wellbeing and Sport. And while organized differently, our emphasis of course has been on sport, and they reached out to us to discuss further partnership. It was a telephone conference that included the representation of the Netherlands Olympic Committee, the Johan Cruyff Foundation, and they've expressed and confirmed their assistance with our sports facilities and the repairs needed there. But the Ministry of Sport actually also said and asked us whether that collaboration and support should be further expanded. So that's definitely sincerely appreciated and welcomed. Of course, we would need to do everything in our capability to indeed repair our sport facilities, as I've emphasized in the various press conferences held last week. We need to do more in sports programming, but in order to do so, we need to ensure that our facilities are back in order. And therefore, indeed, Friday, as we mentioned last week, the Ministry, in collaboration with the National Sports Institute, will be hosting the Sports Matter Mixer. #Sports Matter. You've probably listened on the radio, you've probably seen it on our special channels, or have maybe received copies through your other social media. This mixer will come at the end of a 2-day conference where businesses and invited guests will have the opportunity to #Step Up for Sports by networking with local sports associations and representatives of those associations and federations, and participate in the strengthening of our sports industry on St. Maarten. The mixer takes place at 5 p.m. at the Government Administration Building, and I encourage all businesses, they received, of course, personal invitations, to send a representative and join us on Friday evening. Guests will have the opportunity to bid or donate to repairs of our sports facilities. Items such as flooring, basketball rims, pool stands, chain link fences, of course the huge investments necessary for our lights, that has all been brought into packages and brought forward for your attention and for your support. On that evening, we will also be launching the #StepUpForSports viral challenge, which we hope will take St. Maarten by storm. And not only St. Maarten, but also the region or other donors. With that, we would like to ensure that we expand and that we, of course, don't only rely on businesses here as they are in their own challenging circumstances. I would like to commend our sports department, the Department of Education and Innovation, the NSI board and directors, and of course also the Sports Federation, the Olympic Sports Federation, for their partnership with us. And I look forward to see you Friday, 5 p.m. at the Sports Matter Mixer. Thank you so much.
Sports fans, on Friday, April 6th, the Department of Sports under the #SportsMatter brings to you a mixer to help raise funds that will go towards the repair of 4 major sports facilities. Come out to the Government Administration Building from 6 to 8 p.m. and pledge your support to help build back our sports facilities better and stronger. The Mixer, Friday, April 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Government Administration Building. Because #SportsMatter.
I'd like to just update a little bit on what we call the T-shelter, or the transition shelter. This is housed in Sucker Garden in an abandoned small hotel, which has been completely renovated and now in use through the Dr. J Foundation, which has been contracted by the Ministry of VSA to function as a transition shelter, or as we call it, the T-shelter. Out of the 67 persons that were in Festival Village and Little League Ballpark, 34 of them have moved over to the T-shelter. Out of the 34, 23 were adults, are adults and 11 are children. Of the 23 adults, 8 of them are pensioners. What we found is that the situation at Festival Village was developing in a negative manner, in an undesirable manner. There was lack of sufficient guidance from social workers. In our contract with the Dr. J Foundation, they provide social workers as support, as well as a psychologist. There were issues there with theft, drug use, some violence and aggression, and we have even reports of some prostitution taking place on the facilities. And so it was an undesirable situation, and we're happy that people are moving into a much better situation. You know, this is a facility, like I said, that's been fully renovated. They have their own bathrooms in each unit. They have a small refrigerator, television. There's a restaurant facility there. The occupants are provided with 3 meals a day. And yes, there are some rules there in the shelter. Now, some of the people that didn't make the transition over to the T shelter, for some reasons, including lack of residency, there was also a mandatory drug test. In other words, we didn't want anybody with any sort of substance abuse problems moving in, or any violent or aggressive behavior, because this really is a managed situation. This is very different than this is not a housing solution. This is a social transition facility, right? So different than what Ministry of Romy provides in terms of the roof repair or emergency housing, this is a transition shelter. We really focus on rebuilding lives. There's a lot of support for all of the people that are moving over, from crisis management skills, basic skills in terms of how to find a job, helping them to find an apartment or repair their homes, connecting them with the appropriate organizations. We work very closely with the Ministry of Romy so that the people from the shelter can get their lives back in order. We're teaching them social skills and self-confidence skills. There was some mention in the newspaper about rent being paid, and that's true. We do ask that the tenants contribute something financially, but I want to make it clear, all the money that is contributed is actually saved on behalf of the occupants. The idea is, in making the transition, they're usually going to need some sort of startup capital, whether it's for deposits for an apartment or for whatever, or perhaps to buy furniture. So all of the money is actually being saved on behalf of the occupants for them to use to make their transition over to a more permanent home situation. We're also looking at the possibilities. I mean, now that we have a facility, there's also excellent possibilities to dovetail into other programs. For example, the hospitality education program. One of the things that they need actually is they need a kitchen place to practice. They actually need rooms to clean. They need to practice their housekeeping skills. So we're actually in discussion with the hospitality education program to see if we can dovetail having them provide some of the services at the facility. A personal passion of mine, I believe that there's a possibility to look at a food rescue program. As you know, many of the supermarkets have goods, and prior to expiration, they discount them, and we'd like to see if we can convince them to donate some of the food supplies to the shelter, and that we can use that together with the hospitality program and start dovetailing all of our programs together. All the people in the shelter, whether they are working or not, if they're not working, we find that there's also an opportunity for them to provide some services, helping within the community, within the shelter, so that they also contribute to building that community spirit there. And for those that didn't qualify to move over, we are working with them, helping them to meet with other organizations to see what kind of a solution can be found for them. But that's something that's in progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Lee, for your opening remarks. The Minister of Finance, the Honorable Michael Ferrier, and the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, the Honorable Miklos Hitterson, are both here this morning. However, they do not have any opening remarks, but are willing to answer any questions the media may have. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Leona Romeo Marlin, to address you.
Good morning to one and all. The government of St. Martin was hit by a cyber attack on Monday, April 3rd. The impact of the cyber attack has shut down all ICT systems within the government administration building. Thus, all departments that render service to the public were closed on Monday and remain closed until further notice. An assessment of the situation is taking place, and updates will be disseminated to the public as to when ICT systems has been fully restored. I would also like to take this moment to express my sincere apologies to the civil servants for any inconvenience that we have 4 coolers that has broken down, and the building is very hot. So I know at times it's very, very difficult to work in certain departments. So let me take the opportunity here to express my sincere apologies and note that the relevant departments are doing everything possible to ensure that those coolers are back up and running within short. Today I will be leaving to Curacao, where I'll be attending the meeting of foreign affairs ministers within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Prime Ministers of Aruba, Curacao, and Minister Stefanus Blok of the Netherlands. He will be present. The agenda point will include discussions on Venezuela and its impact on the Dutch Caribbean islands, St. Martin post-hurricane recovery efforts, European Union relations as it relates to the post-2020 negotiations on the relationship of OCTs within the European Union, and evaluating the importance of St. Martin participating in regional organizations such as CARICOM, the Association of Caribbean States, and Overseas Countries and Territories Associations. These are my updates for today.
When disaster strikes, it affects all of us.
Yeah, girl. Tell Desan to come and see me. I'll put her name at the top of the list.
You need to know that as a citizen, your rights are always protected.
I just need help.
Here, fill those out.
I have filled out this form 3 times already. I need help. This is just a waste of time.
If you feel your rights have been violated or have a legitimate complaint against any government body, even in these troubling times, we are here to listen to and act upon your concerns. The Ombudsman will use all of its resources to seek a fair resolution, keeping the government fully accountable. The Ombudsman, protecting your rights. Brought to you by the International Ombudsman Institute.
As indicated, we are busy with an assessment right now, and note, and this is for public consumption, throughout the world, cyber attacks happen to the greatest institutions, and St. Martin is no different. What is key is that in the recovery process that we take prompt measures to ensure that our systems are restored, and that assessment is being done right now.
Stephen Cerulean of PJ82 Radio.
Good morning, ministers. My question is directed at the Minister of Finance, Michael Ferrier. The proposed cost-cutting measures, as was announced by a person last week, I think, has garnered a reaction from the Chamber of Labor Unions. In fact, they oppose strongly, and they thought that you should have contacted them prior to you making the announcement. Your take on this?
Thank you very much. Look, fact is that we are in dire times, and I am sure that our unions also know that. I chose to announce that these measures will be coming forth. They have to be approved by our Council of Ministers first. We're also going to seek the support of members of Parliament, and definitely we are going to open a dialogue with the unions in the hope that we find solutions together as to how to mitigate the liquidity problem that this island is in. And let me be very clear. If we do nothing, and even if we do a lot of things, we are facing serious, serious liquidity problems. So I am hoping for a positive dialogue with the unions. I am sure they will because I know them to be responsible unions. The items that I've brought forward, many of them, as I say, will somehow or the other affect the workers. But there's others also that just relate to following up to them doing their work the way they need to be done. For instance, I was just thinking about a couple, like we talked about the working of the internal audit function. In cost cutting, there's things like vehicle repairs. There are many cars that are being used by government employees and departments that go for repairs. Right now, I do not know of a system in place where the person who is the driver or the person to whom the car has been assigned to, I don't think that they get to see, for instance, the repair work that is done to the vehicle. So a car breaks down, the driver knows it has to do with maybe brakes. It goes to the garage, it gets repaired, and the bill comes in. I, right now, cannot tell you that that bill is presented to the driver or the person who is in charge of that car to verify that the items that were repaired are actually the items that needed to be repaired. Maybe more repairs were done to it, but who gets it is someone in a department who just sees the bills and then signs them off and sends it for payment. Nobody verifies if the actual repair that needed to be done was done, or if more was done, or if not enough was done, but a bill gets paid. So that's one. Another small thing was brought to my attention just now. We get water quite often. We get water put on our tables before we start a meeting. The bottles of water that we get right now are half-liter bottles. At the end of the meeting, you walk away and you see probably 90% of the bottles are still half full, maybe some three-quarters full. That gets thrown out because they're now opened. Maybe we should buy smaller bottles of water and save some money. So it's not only employees of the government, it is the entire structure of government that is going to be looked at. And that's just a couple of items that I'd like to mention. That's it.
Lyndon Brown, BCN TV, you have the, Prime Minister.
If I may add to what the Minister of Finance stated, note that he stated that civil servants will be affected, and nowhere did he ever state that civil servants' salaries will be cut. I think there's a misconception, and we've been getting a lot of questions and concerns about that, but there was never a talk of cutting civil servants' salaries. So I just wanted to take the opportunity for our civil servants to understand that, but cost-cutting measures must be taken, but it has nothing to do with the salaries. And Minister, you forgot to say the simple thing, turning off the lights.
Well, that's not a simple thing. If you notice, at 8 o'clock at night, this building goes dark. It is one of the things that we've put into place, and it's because the building, when it was constructed, for somehow or the other, some reason or the other, the electrical hookups have made it so they've made it in such a fashion that you have to take off an entire floor. You cannot take off individual offices. So if there are 3 people working on a floor, that entire floor stays on. So we've come up with an idea, look, work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, and then take a rest, because the lights will go off unless you want to come with a candle.
Lyndon Brown, BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to ministers present, and also to the listening public of St. Martin. Minister Lee, in viewing the new rehabilitation center that in Arch Road, Sucker Garden, the the question is, there are some people who are not eligible to stay in that center that's run by Dr. J Foundation. And also there are, in the community, people who are not legally, do not have legal status. They also have houses that build without proper planning, in other words, not being checked by VROMI. And these people, well, I have met some ladies that have children also, which they don't have no status. I mean, this is recovery. I mean, of course, and they are human beings. They are people who actually, let me just speak plain enough, that people who are illegal on the island, people who have built illegal houses. How do your government and your office fend for these people? How they comes in?
Thank you, Lyndon. You know, look, immediately after Irma, there were discussions about, in the recovery process or the emergency phase, you know, how do we treat people who are here without the proper legal status? And fact is, in that point, it was a humanitarian crisis. We helped everybody who was here on the island, regardless of what their legal status is. As the country moves forward and we start putting structural solutions in place to help our people, there's only a limited amount of resources, there's only a limited amount of space in the shelter. They're still, by the way, working on finishing some portions of the shelter, so there will be more rooms coming available, but there's simply a limited amount of space. And priority has to be for the people who reside here legally, right? And that phase of that humanitarian support at some point has to come to an end. Of course, we have to treat everybody always with decency and according to the law. But the fact is, if you are not here living legally, you either need to get yourself legal or you need to move somewhere where you are legal. We don't have enough space or resources to take care of our own. And it's just as simple as that.
And the same question, did any analysis did so far to find out how much, I mean, after the hurricane, how much people are not legal on the island? Did you have any?
The Ministry of VSA has not conducted such a survey, but I can tell you that, unfortunately, when the inspectors from SZV and when the labor inspectors go out, they are still finding far too many people that are non-compliant. That may be legal status, but certainly as well we're finding that people are working without being properly registered in terms of paying their taxes or their social premiums. And for government, this is a fundamental problem, as government is looking for revenues to maintain basic functions. So, and this is a point that I've always stressed even prior to Irma, that the level of compliance in our country needs drastic improvement, and I think that situation has only deteriorated since Irma. And unfortunately, it is a multi-ministerial problem. In other words, when SZV goes out or when labor inspectors go out, they don't have the authority to apprehend or deport people. They only have within the ministries certain authorities, unfortunately. And I think that's one of the things as government moves forward we need to look at. Complying with the law needs to be the path of least resistance.
Andrew Dick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning to all the ministers present. Prime Minister, concerning the airport, as the Prime Minister, can you answer on the situation with Nagico and of course, the airport? It's been a while now, and of course, the what happened? Yeah. So of course, the airport has been waiting for a while for the claim to be honored by Nagico, and it looks like it's going into court now. How does the government? What's the government's take on that?
Minister of Finance, I will make a comment and I will give the floor to you. Well, basically, the dispute between, and it has been public, between the airport and Nagico. It's a dispute between two parties that they will have to resolve it. For the government, it's essential and very important for airport to be running and running even better than it was before. It's a part of our, it supports the pillar of our economy, which is tourism. So we have also emphasized that to the airport, and we understand the dilemma that they're in. It's, government can't intervene in that particular dilemma. They will have to resolve it, but we know we have been emphasizing on the need for quick reconstruction because the airport is needed. The hotels are dependent on the airport is dependent on the hotels. So it's something that has the priority of government, and we have had discussions as to how do we move forward should the dispute continue. And we're still in discussions with that to see whether funding can be available through different means, but I will leave the Minister of Finance comment on that part.
I like when the Prime Minister gives me the easy questions. We are not involved in the deliberations between the airport and their insurance company. We also hear things that are quite unsettling, to say the least. As far as we're concerned, the airport is the main portal to the economy, to the island, period. Personally, I have many questions, and I've requested that we went down to the airport the first day that we were inaugurated, and there will be a follow-up visit so we can see firsthand where it's at and what's going on. My personal concern is we have two lovely tents, but if we get hit with a category half hurricane, those tents need to come down, which means, as far as I'm concerned, that basically the airport closes down. I've been told that it'll take 5 days to put it down, and it'll take 5 days to put it up. So at a minimum, our airport is going to be closed for 10 days, even if we have a hint of a category half hurricane. So we are in dire straits, and there are many questions that the board of the airport and the management has to answer.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, for your reply. This is going to be the last round of questions. Please keep it short and concise as we are under time constraints. Hilbert Hart, you have the floor.
Okay, Minister Ferrier, I guess you're not only looking at cost-cutting measures, but also at revenue-generating measures. As you know, Aruba is going to impose a 2.5% crisis levy by increasing their turnover tax. And I seem to remember that there have been talks here about taxing alcohol and tobacco. Are those ideas still alive here? Are you thinking about such a crisis levy and about taxing alcohol and tobacco?
We've never talked about a crisis levy or those kind of levies, let me put it that way. They have not come up in my discussions yet. We are looking at other ways and means to make sure that we increase our income. And part of it is basically, if everybody would be part of the system, we would already improve by probably over 25 to 30%. There's a whole lot of people who are doing business in this community who are not paying their fair share based on the income that they're getting. I take, for instance, right now we have a whole lot of new construction companies, we believe. I say we believe because we're still trying to wrap our hands around it, who are repairing homes. Now, mind you, we want homes to be repaired. So it is important that the work continues. But what we would like is that everybody reports and registers so that government gets its fair share of the profits that those companies now make. So what we want to do is compliance, increase and improve our compliance and make it customer friendly. We should not be the bad guys. We should be a partner in this whole process as government. As I said before, any self-respecting community must realize that it takes taxes to keep a government going so that the government can provide infrastructure, healthcare, social welfare, housing for people who don't have housing, and all the things that come with running a government. So that's all we're asking. We're not, we don't want to hit you with a 2x4 over the head, because 2x4s are very difficult to come by right now. What we want is that everyone voluntarily steps up to the plate, comes and sees the tax office, and reports the income that they get from the lucrative work that IRMA has brought to them.
Stephen Cerulean, PJ82 Radio, you have the floor.
I have a choice of 2 questions.
One.
Choice of 3.
Well, in this case, I'll have to address my question to you, Minister of Education. The president of the union, Y2, Claire Elshot, said yesterday that there was a shortage of teachers. If there is a shortage of teachers, what has been done on your part to recruit those missing teachers to ensure that the schools are well up to par with the required educators?
Shortage of teachers has always been a challenge. That has to be established, first of all. And of course, we have to recognize, therefore, that we sometimes rely on foreign labor, also in this area, this sector, being the teaching staff. That means that we, for instance, need to emphasize the importance of campaigns, local campaigns, to express the importance of this profession. That's one priority. 2, the school boards have their own respective responsibilities in recruitment of their staff, including the teaching staff. They're funded for it, for their recruitment fees associated with it, and through our regular monthly meetings, school boards with the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education, we can of course explore possibilities or express any type of needs where the ministry needs to step in. But in this stage, of course, recruitment is ongoing for the new school year, for 2018-2019, and I'm sure, and I would like to encourage the school boards that they start on a timely basis so that we indeed can take stock of the outcome of their recruitment drives by June and see whether any additional measures are necessary to indeed secure the quality of our educational system through the availability of well-trained teachers.
Thank you, Minister Whitesell. Lyndon Brown, BCN-TV, you have the floor.
Last question to Minister Mike Ferrier. A couple of months, Mr. Minister, you said that you was looking into take back some land, domain land that the past minister of Rome gave to some people. He was looking into it. Can you tell us, is this process continuing? Because right now, land, especially domain land, everybody fighting for land these days. Land and St. Martin becoming a priority. And as you said, you was, for what reason, you was trying to go through a process of taking back domain land. And the question will be, when do somebody own domain land?
You're making me sound like the real bad guy here, man. You should have done that to the Minister of Vrami who just left. But what I said, and I maintain, the parcels of land that were supposedly given out on the Ring Road land will call for, if that remains in place, it will call for millions of guilders of changes to the Ring Road setup and the water and the sewage piping and stuff like that. So I understand that there is a process ongoing with regards to investigating the possibility of turning them back. I do not have the response yet because that is still ongoing, but I guarantee you that any of those lots that have not been officially transferred will not be transferred.
Andrew Dick?
Yes, Minister Lee, quickly on the dismissal committee, I know that there had to be, some persons had to be appointed. Was that taking place? Any update on the committee?
Yes, I think I had updated previously. I'm trying to remember now. Everything's been signed. I think they've been having preparatory meetings. As far as I know, the committee's in place and functional, yes. And if not, it should be days.
Thank you, Minister Lee. Honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, radio listeners, online viewers, this brings us to the end of the Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, April 4th, 2018. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at www.stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Relika Roach, and